Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So a few weeks ago, I did a video titled California Senator has been blocking right to repair for 2 years, and he finally lets it through. I don't trust him. And I'm talking about the fact that this bill never even got to get voted on in the Senate because it was never put up for a vote. And there was one individual that was the head of a particular committee that was blocking it from going forward. And that person has stopped doing that. And it's very interesting what happened when he stopped doing that is that it was voted overwhelmingly 38-0. So this right to repair bill was passed through the Senate 38-0, which is pretty cool. So I thought we'd read through it because a lot of you have been emailing me and asking, does this bill have poison pills? What do I think of the way that it's written? So let's go through it together. So existing law, the Song-Beverly Consumer Warranty Act, provides a comprehensive set of procedures for the enforcement of express and implied warranties on consumer goods as defined. Under existing law, every manufacturer making an express warranty with respect to an electronic or appliance product, including TVs, radios, audio or video recording equipment, major home appliances, antennas, rotators, with a wholesale price to the retailer of not less than $50 nor more than $99.99, is required to make available to service and repair facilities sufficient service literature and functional parts to effect the repair of the product for at least 3 years after the date of the product model type was manufactured, regardless of whether the 3-year period exceeds the warranty period for the product. Existing law also requires every manufacturer making an express warranty with respect to an electronic or appliance product, as described above, with a wholesale price to the retailer of $100 or more, to make available to service and repair facilities sufficient service literature and functional parts to effect the repair of the product for at least 7 years after the date of a product model or type was manufactured, regardless of whether the 7-year period exceeds the warranty period for the product. I'll be honest with you, that seems almost a little too pro the repair side, and I'll explain why. Why would I think that something is way too pro repair? One of the things that I've mentioned in many of my videos is that the stuff that I'm looking for, the stuff that I want, is not something where the manufacturer is going to be compromising. It's not something that's actually going to increase the cost to the consumer in any tangible way. Like, allow me to give you money to get a PDF schematic that I'm currently pirating from VenaFix is not going to negatively affect Apple. You know, Apple allowing LG to sell me overstock screens is not going to negatively affect Apple. Requiring that they keep parts available, every single thing that I'm looking for 7 years, this is going to require that they keep a lot of extra stock, and the extra stock is something that may actually cost them more money. Because again, they have to anticipate. If we produce too few, we are not in compliance with the law. If we produce too many, we have stock that we cannot sell to anybody because nobody is interested in buying an iPhone for CDMA flex cable or an NXP 610 A3B or something like that. If hopefully this makes sense here, is that it's very, very difficult to calibrate that. And the way that the market usually does this right now is not, instead of the manufacturer taking on this risk, you'll have other companies do it. You'll have Asset Genie do it. You'll have Vivo Technology do it. Hell, you'll even have people like me do it. We try to gauge what the repair interest is in a particular product. We will buy what we anticipate that will be. Some will buy too few, some will buy too many. And the market tends to work out against all of these resellers who won and who lost. But for the most part, the manufacturer is not the one that is tasked. The manufacturer simply makes stuff available while it's available, and we buy up what we need to buy up while the getting's good. And then when the manufacturer stops making it available because it's no longer viable for them to continue having the contract necessary to produce this particular chip or this particular part or this particular screen, then, hopefully we saved up enough for the winter and didn't eat our seed crop, so to speak. This is kind of the way this works. Be honest with you, I'm just asking for them to make the stuff available. I wasn't asking for them to make it available for 7 years, because that is something that is actually a burden on the manufacturer. And as much as I despise some of the companies that we're talking about here, I do try to look at things in, essentially how would I like to be treated in that particular situation. But more importantly, what do I think would actually be good for the end consumer? And if you kind of over-calibrate towards asking the manufacturer to take too much accountability and too much responsibility for that which really should be the responsibility of the repair shops, the Asset Genies, the Mobile Centrixes, the Vivo Technologies, and so on and so forth, the worse I think it winds up being for everybody. I want to be 100% clear with this because I know it's going to show up in my comments. I'm not saying this because I don't want consumers to be able to get parts for 7 years. I think that if you make these parts available, they will get sold, and people at Vivo Technology and Mobile Centrix and Asset Genie and me and pretty much everybody else are going to be buying these things up like hotcakes and making them available for the next 10 to 15 years if you want to buy them from us. I'm saying that that is a burden that should be placed on the resellers. That's not a burden to place in the manufacturer, because that opens the gate for the manufacturer to play the victim and pretend that they didn't want to raise prices to the end consumers, but they had to raise prices to the end consumer in order to logistically comply with this damn expensive right to repair bill that requires we stock parts for 7 years, when in reality, that's not actually necessary. Just allow us to buy the overstock from LG, Intersil, and everybody else. And again, the Asset Genies, the L2 computers, the Bliss computers, the Vivo Technologies, the Mobile Centrixes, and the Me's, and everybody else will happily deal with that part of the problem without burdening the manufacturer. I do not want the manufacturer to be able to play the victim and say that we need to raise prices to the consumer because you have forced us to stock parts for 7 years. And if we only buy enough supply for 6 years and 10 months, now we're going to get fined and in trouble. Because the thing is, you can't really figure out exactly how many you're going to need. And you can't underbuy because then you're in trouble and you're breaking the law. So they're going to have to overbuy. If you overbuy, you're going to have parts that you wind up not using or selling at a loss, and that is going to cost the manufacturer something. And I think that burden should be shifted over to the resellers, over to the repair shops, over to the people that are actually going to be selling these parts to you from their online web shops, from their retail shops, than it being on the manufacturer. And above all, I am just in that mindset as a New York City business owner of anytime a law is being created, anytime there's a law that I'm lobbying for, advocating for, I want that to be as simple and burdenless as humanly possible. I want it to be a principle, a very basic principle. I want it to be as simple as humanly possible. I want it to be as easy to comply with as humanly possible, because I assume that any law that I have any part in getting signed into being an actual full-fledged law is going to be read and interpreted by an idiot New York City bureaucrat that is going to use it to torture people. And I want anything that I am a part of to not be the reason that any company, whether a small business or a large business, is tortured by an idiot New York City bureaucrat. I am only half joking here. I assume that the people that run our country are complete morons. So anytime you're coming up with any sort of legislative rubric, any sort of law, it should be something that even if somebody who is a complete effing moron, room temperature IQ, is interpreting, is something that will be interpreted in a way that is very easy for a manufacturer to follow without there being any burdens. And I mean that. I'm going to hope that this is clarified later on in the bill. It says the bill would enact the Right to Repair Act. The bill would require, except as specified and regardless of whether any express warranty is made, the manufacturer of an above-described electronic or appliance product in the above-described circumstances, and in those same circumstances, but sold to others outside direct retail sales, to make available on fair and reasonable terms to product owners, service and repair facilities, and service dealers the means as described to effect the diagnosis, maintenance, or repair of the product as provided. The bill would also require a service and repair facility or service dealer that is not an authorized facility or dealer of a manufacturer to provide a written notice of that fact to any customer seeking repair of any electronic or appliance product before the repair facility service dealer repairs the product, and to disclose if it uses replacement parts that are used from a supplier that is not the manufacturer. Okay, that's a little strange, and it's very strange that strikes me as something that's aggravating to put in there, because it's weird, because it's something I already do. So if you go to my website, like, are you Apple certified? It literally starts, absolutely not. And if you go back to archive.org and you go back to when my website was 13 years ago in June of 2010, I actually, oh my God, this website was so pathetic. Can you tell I put this crap together myself? Archive.org is kind of messing up the WordPress theme here, but there's literally a tab that says Apple certified. And when you click it, it says proud to not be Apple certified. And I used to have a red X through a circle of Apple certified. I have absolutely no problems letting people know that I'm not authorized. It's one of the things that I sell as a benefit, because people are used to going to the Apple authorized place and hearing it's going to be $1,200, you don't get your data back, it'll take 2 weeks. And because I would tell them it's going to be $200, it'll take 30 minutes, and you'll keep all your data, I wanted to be as far away as possible from the association of being Apple certified, because Apple certified tended to mean you cost a lot of money, you were going to offer horrible service, and the customer was losing their data. I wanted to represent that I was the opposite of all of these things. In spite of that, I mean, you know how this, who asked for that to be entered into the bill. So I guess, this is going to mean that if I were doing business in California, when I make you sign this stupid little 2-page thing that everybody has to sign when they, go to do business with me, there'll be another half a page added that says, I am not authorized, I am not certified. Some repairs may use a mixture of new and used parts depending on availability and blah, blah, blah. Now, again, it is what it is. I'm sure that consumers would benefit from being aware if a place is authorized or unauthorized. And again, I have absolutely nothing but the desire to be honest with my customers. It's literally at the top of my fucking website, even 13 years ago. But it's just, I don't know. Anyway, the bill would also authorize a city and county, or the state to bring an action in superior court to impose civil penalties on a person or entity for violating the Right to Repair Act as provided. The people of the state of California do enact as follows. Section 1, chapter blah, 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 blah. This is the Right to Repair Act. It is the intent of the legislature to provide a fair marketplace for the repair of electronic equipment and appliance products and to prohibit intentional barriers and limitations to third-party repair. So do keep in mind here, they're not just saying make available parts and diagrams, they're also saying to prohibit intentional barriers and limitations to third-party repair. So if you do something that literally has no good fucking reason other than making my life miserable, like it's not like you did this because it would make it cheaper to manufacture, you didn't do it because it made it more durable, you didn't do it to make it waterproof, you didn't do it because it would shrink the product, you literally did what you did because you thought doing this would be giving a middle finger to my employees. It's saying no to that. And that's very, very ballsy to actually spell that out here. I think that's pretty cool. Notwithstanding any other law, every manufacturer of an electronic or appliance product with a wholesale price of the retailer or others outside of direct retail sales of not less than $50 and not more than $99.99 shall make available to owners of the product, service, and repair facilities and service dealers sufficient documentation and functional parts and tools, inclusive of any updates on fair and reasonable terms to effect the diagnosis, maintenance, or repair of a product for at least 3 years after the date of the product model or type was manufactured, regardless of whether the 3-year period exceeds the warranty period for the product. And notwithstanding any other law, every manufacturer of an electronic or appliance product with a wholesale price of the retailer or others outside of direct retail sale of $100 or more shall make available to owners of the product, service, and repair facilities and service dealers sufficient documentation and functional parts, tools, inclusive of any updates on fair and reasonable terms to effect the diagnosis, maintenance, or repair of a product for at least 7 years after the date of a product model type was manufactured, regardless of whether the 7-year period exceeds the warranty period for the product. Again, this is almost a little too pro my side to the point that it could be argued that I'm asking the manufacturer to do something that is burdensome. And one of the reasons that I've always advocated against that whole 7-year, 3-year, 5-year, 20-year thing is not because I think the product should not be serviceable. It should be serviceable. But when you look at how things work, again, if you come to my store, I have chipsets from MacBooks from 2008 in my store. I have chips from literally 15-year-old devices. And I sell them on my website. If you go to store.rossmangroup.com, you will find that I have chipsets on this website for MacBooks that are like probably as old as BlackBerry. Like if you go back here, you can find chips and connectors to some seriously old boards. It is, in my opinion, and again, I'm being a little too harsh on my industry here, but I believe it is my job to stock this stuff. It is the job of the people in our industry to buy these parts when they are available and stock them up for a rainy day. And if you are making a decent enough profit on this, you should easily be able to stock up on these parts for a rainy day. The reason I'm saying this is because asking the manufacturer to keep stuff for 7 years, again, if they're going to have it in their contracts that they will get in legal trouble if 6 years and 11 months go by and you know, on 6 years and 11 months, somebody asks for a unibody MacBook Pro keyboard connector and it's not there. Again, this is something that is actually it may cost them money and it may just be a burden. And one of the things that I've always tried to do is anytime I'm crafting any sort of legislation, I assume that the legislation that I'm reading is going to be enacted by people who are as stupid as those who run New York City government. I want it to be easy, plain, simple as pie. Make available to us whatever it is you make available to your authorized repair depots. Like, that's it. And if it's available, it's available. If it's not available because this product wasn't really that popular and it didn't sell a lot, so we decided that we were not going to spend $50 million stocking up on spare parts for it, then again, I really do think that is fair. And it doesn't mean the part is not going to be available. I want that to be clear. It doesn't mean it's not going to be available. You bet your ass that the Asset Genies and the Vivo Technologies and the Mobile Centrixes, and admittedly the people like me, are going to be hoarding PP3V42 chips and SMC reset chips for 13 years. This chip goes into a MacBook that was produced in 2010. You can still buy it from me in 2023 because, as anybody knows who's in the repair business, you genuinely never know if somebody may walk in and actually need this. We like to stock up on things, and people will stock up on this stuff. Many companies will stock up markup on this stuff and make it available to the end consumer, even if the manufacturer doesn't make it available for 7 years. We will save this stuff. I have LP133 WP1 TJAs in my store that I bought back in 2014. I'm telling you, we are pack rats. That is what we do for a living. It's not something that I think really needs a time period in the legislation. C, except as necessary to comply with this section does not require a manufacturer to divulge a trade secret or license any intellectual property, including copyrights or patents. Okay, fair, unless you define the schematic as a trade secret. This section does not require the distribution of a product source code. This is a part that I'm actually glad is in there because we've been accused so many times by manufacturers and politicians alike of asking for source code. I've mentioned this when it comes to C.T. Wilson in Maryland. He said that we're asking for source code. We're not asking for source code. Nothing that I'm asking for is source code. So putting in the bill text, this is not requiring the distribution of source code. It makes it really, really easy to point to the opposition lobbyists and say they're full of crap. So when the opposition says this bill would require we make source code available, having a line in the bill that literally says we're not looking for source code, we're looking for the bare minimum necessary to be able to do a repair, really allows you to just give a screw you to that entire talking point, which is incredibly helpful. E, a service and repair facility or service dealer that is not an authorized facility or dealer of a manufacturer shall provide a written notice to any customer seeking repair of an electronic or appliance product before the repair facility or service dealer repairs the product, and that informs the customer is not manufacturer authorized or manufacturer affiliated service dealer for the product, and shall disclose if it uses any used replacement parts or replacement parts provided by a supplier other than the manufacturer of the product. Okay, like, again, disclosing if you're using used stuff, I get it. The whole, like, you need to say that you're not authorized, again, having that codified into law, it really seems freakish to me. And again, I say this as someone who's on his website, again, whether you're looking at my website now or you're going to archive.org from 13 years ago, says, I am fucking proud to not be Apple certified. I am happy to not be Apple certified. Being Apple certified would mean that I am put in the same bucket as people that don't know that the iPhone 6 charge port is not soldered to the motherboard. I don't want to be in that bucket. But there's something weird about that because the weird thing about it is this idea that I have to let you know that I'm not authorized, because it really does place this whole concept like the default is authorized. And I don't think the default should be authorized. I don't like this concept that I need to tell you whether or not I have authorization from somebody to do something, because it really does kind of make it sound like that authorization is necessary, that authorization is special. It places authorization on a pedestal that I don't think it deserves to be placed on, and I think that's the part that's really disgusting to me here. Because again, I'm trying to think of this, because people are going to say, I just don't want to tell people. I know what I'm going to read in r/Apple because I've been doing this for like 13 years, and I just know what I'm going to read. They're going to read, Lewis wants to pretend that he's certified to people to get business. It's like, literally, archive.org, July 2010, proud to not be Apple certified. That was literally the first button on my homepage. It used to be a giant button. It's displaying as a bullet point list here because archive.org didn't save the formatting. But yeah, there's something strange about that, about having it be a mandate that I cannot legally fix your stuff without telling you ahead of time I am not authorized to do so. I don't like the idea that authorization is the default. I don't like the philosophical structure that sets up for society, and I think it's really weird. As somebody who literally, as long as he has been in business, has bragged that he is not authorized, unauthorized repairman, uncertified, has a video with over 1 million views on my channel talking about unauthorized repair people. This is literally probably one of my crowning videos, how unauthorized idiots repair Apple laptops. There's something weird about putting that in the bill text. And I know I'm repeating myself at this point, but it just skeeves me a little bit. I get it. It's not really going to affect anything in a practical way, for how we do business, but it's just a little skeevy. Again, disclosing if you use used parts, I'm 100% for that. By all means, disclose where you get your stuff and be honest about it. You got to disclose if you're not manufacturer authorized in writing before you start. I don't know. It's just skeevy to me. Nothing in this section shall be construed to require a manufacturer to make available special documentation, tools, and parts that would disable or override anti-theft security measures set by the owner of the product without the owner's authorization. Without the owner's authorization is the part that is key here. I agree with the idea that the owner should be the one, the owner of the product should be the one that is authorizing that. Nothing in this section shall be construed to require a manufacturer to sell service parts if the service parts are no longer provided by the manufacturer or made available to itself or to manufacturer authorized or manufacturer affiliated service dealers. This actually goes over the point that I was discussing earlier, where the whole 7-year thing seems very burdensome to the manufacturer. And this takes away that burden. To be honest, I think this is one of the better bills written so far. It doesn't have like all this cybersecurity and safety, fear-mongering written into it, or if the manufacturer thinks that this would not be safe for you, they cannot do it. And it's actually kind of fair to the manufacturer as well. I really thought that that whole 7-year thing was going to be massively unfair to the manufacturer, but they did give the manufacturer an out by saying if you no longer manufacture it, it doesn't matter if it hasn't been 7 years yet. It's okay that you not continue to make that available. The part that I'm the least pleased with is that video game consoles are still excluded. You have to scroll down to the definitions to see that they're excluded. For those of you who are asking why they were excluded in Minnesota and in California, it's because the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, is in my opinion a garbage organization. This is what I wrote in response to somebody on the Minnesota video. The ESA is a garbage organization and always does their best to keep this from being included in these bills. We've tried. We'll win video game consoles next time. No, but seriously, listen to my first video, listen to her testimony. These are the people that politicians are choosing to believe over the actual voting constituents. I despise the ESA. Help me discredit them so politicians don't listen to them. I can't do it on my own. I need your help. Help me defeat them. And I linked to 3 videos that I'm going to link to down below where, again, if you listen to this stuff, it will literally rot your brain. So, again, this is one video from the ESA. This is another video where I went to Maine and I recorded the testimony that the ESA, that's another video where I recorded what they were saying to the legislators. And this is some guy apparently that won some handsome lobbyist competition thing. He was actually featured in The Hill for being handsome lobbyist, which I guess is more than I could say for myself, but who also provided some fairly, in my opinion, garbage level testimony from the ESA talking about why you shouldn't be able to fix video game consoles. The anti-repair and video game lobby, dare I say it seemingly is stronger than the Apple and Microsoft lobby. I'm not kidding. Like defeating John Deere, defeating Apple, defeating the ESA, that's a tough one. The video game lobby is, yeah, that's a tough one. I'm still working on that one. Hopefully we actually manage to make it somewhere. But in all seriousness, I think this is probably one of the best thought out right to repair bills that we have up to this point. It has less exclusions in it than Minnesota's, and it has less bullshit poison pill language than New York's. I believe it's fair to the manufacturers, the consumer, and the repair shops, except for the video game shit. The video game thing sucks. But I think this is a good step forward. And again, please help me discredit the ESA in the eyes of your local politicians and in your local community. Just like send them shit like this. Like again, the video game plays the console. Not kidding. The video game plays the console. They say this stuff out loud. It's just it's beyond meme tier. They are absolutely effing clueless. They have no idea what they're talking about. They are reading off scripts and they bullshit the legislature. And for some reason, they get listened to. It's important that if we are going to move forward with this issue, that organizations like the ESA be discredited and are seen for what they are, so that when we go to the legislative hearings and we explain things, when they start saying shit like the game plays the console, they just get laughed at and dismissed the way that they should. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.